Maintain the line, please.
Alex, second line right here.
Line up and keep it tight.
If you see any flashes left or right, you deal.
Who's a fascist officer? Didn't you just say if you see any fascists?
I heard that.
Officer, you said any fascists. He said if you see any fascists. Officer, mate, whose side are you taking? I'm meant to be impartial.
You just said if you see any fascists, then...
Bloody hell, the officer literally just said if you see any fascists, left and right. So you kind of see what side the police are taking at the minute, guys. Not neutral at all.
Welcome to the Daily Agenda. It's a very interesting clip, isn't it? A senior police officer, an inspector, shouting to his minions, watch out for the fascists left and right. He didn't mean politically, that is. No, anyone of a right-wing nature. Those protesting against the migrant hotels are fascista. And no one should be surprised. Although one YouTuber I noticed today said that it was the most terrifying thing he'd ever seen. I would argue he's not seen many terrifying things then. It's a milestone, most definitely. It's very damning. Captured by Wesley Winter in Epping. And it was a good capture as well. Absolutely. And that's why it's a milestone. And that milestone has been reached because we now have a senior police officer quite openly admitting what we already know anyway. We knew they regarded us as fascists and Nazis and racists because they've all been brainwashed by Marxism today, masquerading as common purpose, which is actually commie purpose. So how do we respond to it? Well, this officer and all the others should really be called commie coppers, shouldn't they, or commie cops? Because that's what they are. They're commies. Communists. They call us fascists, we call us communists. So the battle lines are drawn, aren't they? We are diametrically opposed enemies, surely. And wherever communists and nationalists meet one another, there can be no peaceful resolution. The whole of history has taught us that, hasn't it? It's the continuation, really, in a sense, isn't it, of World War II. The clash between communism and nationalism. Or, in their eyes, fascism. And they're the good guys, the noble saviours of their failed society. And I note today, Edward Dutton said that Britain is on the doorstep to becoming a failed state. Well, it will be, definitely, if the false flag incident that we predicted goes ahead. And I've seen it today in detail, in writing. And it's not to be published. It's not for public consumption, because anyone publishing it would immediately, I feel, be arrested under the Online Safety Act for spreading false and misleading information. But that's another beauty of how they spread their false flag material, isn't it? Although I can say it is entirely in keeping with Southport, but on a bigger scale. So, yes, but that's where we have to stop on that particular issue, because the commie coppers regard us all as fascists, and we now live in an online dictatorship state, online censorship. And in other news, I read that J.D. Vance, Vice President, has a cunning plan to liberate Britain and the whole of the EU of this tyranny. Nobody knows what the plan is. I hope it's not another Baldrick plan, because we've seen so many of them. And I actually joked, well, is the US administration planning a colour revolution in Britain and the whole of Europe? I think I made that point about 3 months ago. Because in truth, nothing else is going to succeed. I promise you. And perhaps you think I'm joking. Well, I'm not joking. I'm not joking in the slightest. A colour revolution, of course, needs finance, doesn't it? And in truth, when organisations get lots of finance, you end up with a Maidan situation. That's right, a Maidan situation. A colour revolution. That cost the Americans $5 billion. Led to an absolute disaster down in the southeast called a civil war with the breakaway republics, and then obviously Russia went in officially in February 2022 with the SMO, and it's still going on to this day. Catastrophic. Well over a million dead on both sides. So yes, absolutely, be careful what you wish for. That's what I keep saying to these centre-right people who keep looking over the Atlantic or looking over to the Atlantic thinking they're the saviour. There'd be sanity and saviour. There'd be angels in Washington, apparently, watching over us. And don't be so naive, truly. You know, Washington is not some guardian angel. And Donald Trump most definitely isn't either. You know, if there is any intention on their part to liberate us from the free speech tyranny, or sorry, the hate speech tyranny, or is it the OSA tyranny? I mean, it now has so many faces. You know, we can use just about any reference we can. Want to, can't we, you know? So, yeah, absolutely, you know, if they're going to liberate us, well, then really they need to get on with it quickly, don't they? But I don't believe they do. I think it's all talk, it's all hot air. And because of that, the centre-right obviously will latch onto it because they're so desperate for change. And that's another problem with the centre-right, is that they tend to lack cool, calm thinking. They're very impetuous and they're very angry, and I can understand their anger, you know, absolutely. But there comes a time when you have to get it under control before it controls you and makes you do stupid things, like what happened after Southport last year. Because if this false flag does go ahead, that's exactly what they'll do, but it'll be on a much bigger scale. And this is what I've been advising against for a long time now, is that, you know, they've not made any preparations for it at all. But if they want to rush in like a bull at a gate, then of course, you know, the gate's there, that's the trap, and they're behaving like an enraged bull. You know, you can take several steps back from the breach, as it were, and take a good long look at what's really happening, the bigger picture. You know, this is being provoked, and the commie coppers are provoking it in league with this corrupt regime, this minority regime. Shall we call it the 14%ers, because that's all they have in terms of public support now, isn't it? 14%? Dwindled from 20 just over a year ago. Either way, they're just a minority regime. Nobody really en masse, you know, supports Starmer and his criminal gang, and that's going to depreciate even further, massively, I would say. So the issue is quite clearly, how do you deal with these commie coppers? Well, have you ever thought for 1 minute of not paying your council tax that funds the police? Look at the percentage in your area of council tax that is used to prop up this corrupt policing, two-tier policing regime, and stop paying it. And if hundreds of thousands of people do it, it's unenforceable. They can send you whatever letters they want. Just wasting even more money, isn't it? They won't be able to enforce it. But they'll try everything to intimidate you. But they can't enforce it. And if you're self-employed and politically active and politically aware and above all politically literate, there's no reason why you should be sending taxes to Westminster to prop up this corrupt regime. You know, there's far more sensible ways of defunding and bankrupting this entire regime, this entire hate operation against us, than running up against a gate like a bull, or in this case, basically, running up against migrant hotel, you know, like a bull at a gate, and suffering the consequences. There are other, saner, better ways to do it. And that's my advice to you. It's entirely up to you what you do. But I would say this milestone has been reached. There's no turning back. I said last night, there is no turning back. It is literally unstoppable. I believe what Professor Betts said to me recently in private, that it's unstoppable. I believe it is unstoppable. I've believed it was unstoppable many years before I even spoke to Professor Betts. We've been talking about this for a lot longer than Professor Betts has gone public with it. Decades, in actual fact. We predicted what was coming. And so, yes, I believe it is unstoppable, and this is another milestone on the unstoppable path to you know what. Well, you will when it happens, won't you? You know, it's tragic, really, in a sense, but it's been engineered. And I think there's far too many angry people out there now, really, not to rush in like a bull at a gate. And that's what I see happening. And I see terrible, dire consequences ahead on the very near horizon for a lot of people, leading to an even greater conflagration. So whatever you're planning to do tonight, basically, make sure it's sane and sensible, I would say, instead of rushing in like a bull at a gate. And but obviously you've got to take some form of direct action, haven't you? And the best direct action, I would say, is switching off your taxation. How about that one? Didn't that one call wars of independence as well? A revolution? I think it did, didn't it? Over in that place where JD Vance and Donald Trump are. Catch-22, isn't it?